Britain is now standing on the edge of history. Vladimir Putin has issued his most direct and chilling warning yet, a potential strike on the United Kingdom itself. No more hints, no more diplomatic shadows. This time, the threat is openly declared. NATO is splintering, Washington is wavering, and King Charles has been forced to intervene as the nation spirals into its most dangerous crisis since the Cold War. Make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring you the biggest political breakdowns, exclusive investigations, and updates you won't hear anywhere else. The warning didn't come through back channels or quiet diplomatic notes. It came directly from Vladimir Putin, delivered with icy clarity. Britain could be struck. For years, analysts insisted Putin's threats were posturing, pressure tactics, psychological warfare. But this time, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Because hours earlier, leaked NATO intelligence had hit the internet, exposing something Britain never intended the world to see. A covert military installation hidden deep within the North Sea. Anonymous, unmarked, and operating in total secrecy, the base had been supporting Ukrainian drone operations for months, and Moscow had finally connected the dots. Russia's response was immediate and ruthlessly precise. State television broadcast maps of British radar grids, each one marked with glowing red crosshairs. Coordinates, targeting data, even ranges were displayed like trophies. The message was unmistakable. We see you. We can reach you. Then came the moment that shattered any illusion of safety. A Russian nuclear submarine was detected just miles off Scotland's northern coast, closer than any hostile vessel had been since the darkest nights of the Cold War. RAF jets scrambled, naval forces shifted position, and within minutes, the calm seas around Britain turned into a battlefield waiting to ignite. By sunrise, Britain's national threat level surged to severe, and for the first time in decades, the fear felt real. Inside Downing Street, the atmosphere was suffocating. Keir Starmer was rushed into consecutive emergency briefings with the military, MI5, and cyber defense units. Witnesses described him as pale, tense, struggling to maintain composure as new intelligence poured in by the minute. Russia wasn't simply threatening, it was probing, testing, pushing at every weak point Britain had. Within hours, cyber attacks began sweeping across the UK's critical infrastructure. Energy grids flickered as automated defense systems intercepted foreign signals. Water treatment facilities recorded abnormal access attempts. Communications networks experienced unexplained surges, digital fingerprints pointing unmistakably toward Moscow. The Kremlin was mapping Britain's vulnerabilities in real time. Inside the Cabinet Office bunker, one quiet sentence hung in the air like a death sentence. Article 5 may not save us this time. For 75 years, NATO's Mutual Defense Clause had been Britain's shield, the unbreakable promise that an attack on one member triggered a united response from all. But now, with cracks showing in the alliance and foreign leaders hesitating, that shield felt disturbingly thin. Behind closed doors, even seasoned intelligence chiefs exchanged uneasy glances. NATO's unity had kept Britain safe for generations. But as the crisis deepened, it became painfully clear. Britain might be forced to stand alone. As Britain braced for impact, the real shockwave came not from Moscow, but from the very alliance meant to protect it. Across the Atlantic, the illusion of NATO unity began to crack on live television. It started with U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, a rising figure in American politics, openly blaming Britain, not Russia, for the escalating crisis. His statement hit like a diplomatic earthquake. Britain is playing empire with someone who doesn't bluff, he declared, effectively distancing the United States from its oldest ally. Instantly, panic rippled across European capitals. France urged restraint, carefully avoiding any commitment to military support. Germany froze joint arms shipments pending a strategic review, a bureaucratic phrase that, in a moment like this, sounded dangerously close to abandonment. Italy simply went silent, offering no comment, no reassurance, nothing at all. Then Washington delivered the final blow. We are evaluating all strategic options. A sentence so empty, so deliberately vague, it might as well have been a funeral bell. Behind the scenes, diplomats translated it in plain English. Britain, you're on your own. For the first time in living memory, a nuclear-armed confrontation was unfolding, and the United Kingdom found itself standing at the cliff's edge without the protective shield of NATO behind it. The alliance that once guaranteed peace was now visibly fracturing, piece by piece. Just when Britain believed the crisis couldn't deepen, the truth detonated like a political bomb. A NATO whistleblower in Brussels leaked a set of encrypted documents to an independent journalist. Files incomplete, but explosive enough to shake the entire alliance. The operation's codename, Smokefall. The documents revealed a strategy so cold it bordered on betrayal. NATO leaders had determined that tensions with Russia were reaching a breaking point. Rather than risk escalation across Europe, a plan was quietly drafted. Let Britain take the lead in covert operations, draw Moscow's retaliation toward the West, and use the distraction to reposition NATO forces in Eastern Europe. Britain was never meant to be protected. It was meant to be bait. Worse, buried deep in one transcript was a single sentence that ignited global outrage. Sacrifice the pawn to win the board. When it leaked to the public, everything changed overnight. Britain was no longer viewed as the aggressor in this geopolitical storm. It was the sacrificial piece in a game it didn't even know it was playing. Public perception flipped instantly. Anger replaced confusion, betrayal replaced fear. Across the UK, a chilling realization settled in. NATO hadn't failed Britain. It had used Britain, and now the country was facing the consequences alone. As the truth of Operation Smokefall spread, Britain erupted. Tens of thousands of furious citizens poured into Parliament Square, transforming the heart of London into a roaring sea of flags, banners, and incandescent rage. Chants filled the air, raw, rhythmic, unfiltered. Bring Britain home. No more wars. The people were done with secrets, done with sacrifices, done with being pawns in a game, controlled by foreign generals and silent politicians. The media exploded as well. On GB News, Nigel Farage unleashed one of the most blistering critiques of his career, accusing Starmer of gambling with British lives to impress NATO. His words ignited the political arena. Labour MPs, once unified in their defence, began breaking ranks. Angela Rayner, a pillar of the party, stunned the nation by demanding full honesty from the government, a phrase many interpreted as a direct challenge to Starmer's leadership. Inside Westminster, chaos replaced strategy. Ministers split violently into two camps, one urging immediate talks with Moscow to de-escalate, the other insisting that bowing to Putin would invite further aggression. Shouting matches broke out behind closed doors. Briefings contradicted each other. Loyalty evaporated overnight. It was no longer a political crisis, it was a rebellion within the government itself. And at the center of it stood a prime minister rapidly losing control. Amid the political firestorm, the one institution still untarnished stepped forward: the monarchy. In a rare and dramatic move, King Charles summoned Prime Minister Keir Starmer to Buckingham Palace for a private, undocumented audience. No advisors, no officials, no recordings, just two men carrying the full weight of a nation's fate. Sources later described the meeting as quiet but unyielding. The king did not shout. He did not accuse. Instead, he asked a single, devastating question, a question that pierced straight through the political fog. At what point does leadership become recklessness? The impact was instant. When Starmer emerged from the palace, he looked pale, hollow, and visibly shaken. Cameras captured the moment, and within minutes the image swept across global news networks, a prime minister appearing defeated in the one place where he should have stood strongest. The public felt the shift immediately. For the first time since the crisis began, Britain wasn't looking to Parliament for reassurance. It was looking to the crown. King Charles had become the stabilizing force in a moment of political freefall, a steady voice above the chaos. And in that single, symbolic confrontation, the country sensed a truth no one wanted to say aloud. The collapse of leadership had already begun. Just as Britain struggled to contain the political inferno, a second leak ignited an even more devastating truth. Satellite metadata, released anonymously to investigative journalists, indicated that the original Smokefall documents, the ones exposing Britain's role as NATO's decoy, had not been intercepted by Russia. They had been fed to Moscow. and the digital fingerprints all pointed in one direction: encrypted British servers deep inside Whitehall. The revelation sent MI5, GCHQ, and military intelligence scrambling overnight. Every secure channel, every classified network, every internal connection was torn apart and examined. What they found was worse than sabotage. It was betrayal. Investigators quickly identified a prime suspect: Lord Havisham, a former senior defense advisor with a long, controversial trail of foreign consulting work. His financial ties stretched alarmingly across both Russian and American private interests. A man with access, influence, and motive. Suddenly, the narrative flipped again. Britain was not merely a victim of NATO's strategic calculation. It had been undermined from its own capital. Leaked data, political chaos, and Russia's rapid response were no longer coincidences. They were consequences of a deliberate internal breach. The public real was immediate. If the betrayal came from inside London itself, then nothing, neither alliances nor institutions, felt safe anymore. With trust collapsing and the truth spreading faster than any government could contain, the walls around Keir Starmer finally closed in. Senior ministers, some furious, others frightened, pressed him relentlessly to resign. For the stability of the country, they said, though many privately feared being dragged down with him. Phone lines inside Number 10 fell eerily silent as advisors stopped defending him and allies vanished one by one. Outside, the streets were swelling. Protesters occupied Whitehall from dawn till midnight, demanding accountability, demanding change, demanding someone take responsibility for the catastrophe Britain had been thrust into. The chants grew louder, angrier, more unified. The pressure became unbearable. At exactly 7 a.m., Starmer stepped out into the cold morning air. Cameras snapped instantly. Reporters shouted, but the Prime Minister raised his hand and delivered a short, restrained, emotional statement. The British people deserve a new path forward. His voice cracked, but he did not falter. He announced that by nightfall, he would formally tender his resignation to His Majesty the King. Hours later, Buckingham Palace confirmed it. The news hit the nation like a seismic shock. Britain was suddenly leaderless, its government fractured, its alliances shaken, and its future uncertain. A political vacuum had opened, and the world was watching what would fill it. At precisely 9 p.m., the nation pauses as King Charles III steps forward, standing tall before the Union flag. His face is solemn, not shaken, but marked by the weight of a nation spiraling through its most turbulent political moment in decades. The broadcast is carried across every major network. Even the streets, filled just hours earlier with chants and outrage, grow silent as the country waits. The king begins by reaffirming the principles that Britain was built on: truth, democracy, unity, and resilience. He speaks with a calm authority that instantly cuts through the chaos. We do not bend to fear, nor do we surrender to uncertainty. Britain will endure. Britain will overcome. His words strike at the very heart of a shaken nation, reminding millions that leadership can still be rooted in integrity and steadiness. The speech reignites a spark of national pride. Social media floods with messages of relief, gratitude, and renewed confidence. For the first time in days, the markets stabilize, and the tone across the country softens. But beneath that surface calm lies an unsettling tension. If the NATO leak came from within London, if the betrayal was internal, not foreign, then the king's message raises a darker, more profound question. If Britain can be betrayed by its own allies, who truly controls the West? The only certainty is this: the next months will reshape global alliances, military power, and the very definition of peace. Britain now stands at a crossroads. One path leads to renewal, the other to irreversible global instability.